Welcome to the Been There, Done That podcast, where we give our guests the opportunity to talk openly about their career, their ups and downs, and all things in between. You can follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can also watch it on YouTube. If you enjoyed the podcast, give us a like and a follow on our social media, which you can find in the link in the show notes. Hello, and welcome to episode 10. I would just like to take a moment to thank everyone who has tuned into the podcast so far. It has been really enjoyable for Poppy and I to bring you each guest's story over the past 9 weeks. This week, I was joined by Jono Marsh, who has moved back to Perth after a stint of playing AFL with St Kilda. We covered his AFL career, his mental battles, and how he is transitioning himself into the East Fremantle Football Club. Thank you again to Jono, and I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. Live. How you doing? You all right, Jono?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah.
You are lucky number 10. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Episode 10.
Well,
thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who's been listening and following for the podcast. It's been a great ride and a great time.
Well, I wear number 10, so that's a happy coincidence for you.
That's perfect. That's awesome. You can put that in.
Absolutely.
So what have you been up to today? You been busy?
Not
working?
really. A little bit of work. Yeah, so I work at New Choice Homes, which is a major sponsor of East Fremantle, and then second half of the day is just a bit more about
getting ready.
Not working, more getting ready, just because a lot of people are about to enjoy their Friday and especially the long weekend. So I tend to go home and do some work by myself instead of going into the office.
Oh, I love that. Sit at home.
Yeah, try and get a bit done there. So it's good. I like my own space and being able to do that. And that option with work is pretty cool to do.
Do you find it hard to stay motivated when you're sitting at home? Or you have a good workspace? I do. I have a nice workspace, and I've kind of decked out my living room with some nice plants and things like that. So I find it very relaxing. So it is. I need to tick off boxes before I go to work. I need to clean up and things like that because like you're saying, you come home and you're like, I'll do a lot of washing. Yeah.
Things like that. But I'm quite good with being able to just stick to a task. So
you keep a routine?
I do. Yeah. Sometimes I deviate from it. It's not as strict. I find that kind of stressful as well, having a strict routine throughout my life. However, I also do like ticking boxes, especially before footy. It's not a set routine per se, but I like having no niggling thoughts before I go into a football game. So when you do, you've got the hard like schedule and that sort of stuff. Do you kind of you want to keep it like a strict regime, and you find that stuff kind of gets in the way? You lose it. You lose like your train of thought, or you lose momentum, I guess. Absolutely. Yeah. I especially when I first kind of was coming up through Colts and then got drafted, I'd stuck to that rigid routine. And exactly what you're saying, it doesn't work when something pops up in the schedules. You need to see someone, or potentially an away game. You can't, go to your favorite restaurant and get your favorite meal. So that's where I kind of learned how to adapt with it. And it's gotten to the point now where I could do none of that, what I usually like to do before a game, and I'll still go into the game feeling good. I just have those boxes that I like to tick, and if I get around to ticking them, then that makes me feel still good before a game, but it's not. I don't think it dictates between my performance at all. Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing when you're young, you feel like that all these little things that you have to do makes you feel like it gets you right for a game, but really at the end of the day, like preparation, all that sort of stuff during the week gets ticked off. Absolutely. I've played footy with blokes that needed. Ben Harding was one of them actually, who was down at the club, and he has just an unbelievable list of ticking boxes. Yeah, right. And some people would left sock on first and then right boot on and things like that. And I'm just like, well, at the end of the day, that's not what's going to happen. That's not going to make you play better. It may make you feel good and then therefore play better, but once you break that down, and if you can break that down, I think it's quite valuable having something that's flexible and adaptable. So where did you start your Colts or your junior football? So Margaret River. Yep. Margaret River boy. So I grew up there. I think I was like 2 or 3 when we moved there. So and then I left when I was 17, which is good getting out of Margs, especially at that time. There's not a whole lot. I don't think there's a whole lot there for someone who's trying to pursue sport through the ages of 17 to 22. I think it was good for my brother and I to get out in that regard. I moved up. At Margaret River, I was actually at East Perth for 14s and 15s because that's the catchment area. Yep. And you would have to drive up there. We actually had for games. We had Yeah, for like the tournaments. There was in school holidays, there was the tournaments. But under 16s, my mum got us across to East Fremantle because there's actually a grandfather-grandson rule.
Oh.
So we actually got transferred because my granddad's plays for East Fremantle, or played for East Fremantle.
Oh, wow.
So we got transferred over just because mum thought it would give us a better opportunity to get drafted. My brother and I were all about that.
Yeah. Okay.
She thought the development at East Fremantle was better at that time. At that time, I don't know what it is now. And then I played a 16s carnival at East Fremantle, and then I played Colts, and then managed to get drafted my first time at Collingwood then. Yeah,
right. So I was 18, 17, 18?
Yeah. I'm an October baby, so pretty much turned 18, and then the next month I got drafted. You get drafted in November.
Yeah, right.
So I had a month of being 18 in Perth with friends and family, and then you get drafted, and then you get drafted on the Friday, and then interstate boys are expected to be at training on Monday. Yeah, right. So I flew.
Jesus.
I flew Saturday, I think, or Sunday. I think I flew Sunday morning. Got there in the afternoon, had dinner with a lot of the Collingwood boys, and I lived with Tyson Goldsack at the first bit. So I've never met him. Met him, and then went to dinner with the boys, and then kind of started life as an AFL footballer.
So when you were drafted, what you kind of shape a lot? What were you, obviously now you're quite a big guy. You've been in the system for quite a while, so you're a bit of size on. Were you ready for it when you rolled up to Collingwood?
No, not at all. Yeah. In my Colts year, I just didn't do any weights, and especially at that stage and at that time, it wasn't something that was part of the program either. So it was either if you do weights, you do it on your own terms. I was working part-time. I just didn't see the need for it. And that's just being naive. My thing was on a Wednesday, so we didn't train on Wednesdays, I would go and run 4Ks on the beach. And that was me trying to improve my aerobic system, thinking that if I gymmed, it would take it away from it. Obviously, I've got a fair bit more information regarding that, it doesn't affect it. But I thought, instead of, because a couple of my mates did it, on a Wednesday night and a Friday morning would do their own weights program. And I thought, that this is something that is going to benefit my footy, is doing, an extra 4Ks. But I got drafted 192 and 193 centimetres, and I think about 78 to 80 kilos. And now I fluctuate between 96 to 99 kilos. So it's a lot of weight difference.
It's huge.
And I put a lot of that on in my legs in my first season. So I ended up doing a pretty serious hamstring after my first year, because I went to Collingwood and my legs just puffed up within a year from, going from no weights. And then at the time, our strength and conditioning coach was all about pretty much bodybuilding weights, like really heavy squats and deadlifts and things like that. And it just, my body adapted, or my legs especially, adapted quite quickly to that.
Were you as fast as you were when you were playing Colts? Was that the kind of key difference between the rest of the playing group at Colts?
Was my
your speed,
because
and obviously skill, but
no, my skill was pretty average getting drafted, and I was actually the last pick of the draft. By no means was I a very talented player in that draft. My speed was a difference. I did very well in the 20-minute sprint at draft camp, and I think that's something that I got drafted from Collingwood for a purely athletic reason. They thought, if we can turn him into something, he could be something. It wasn't, we know where he's going to fit. We know what he's going to be able to play. I was so raw. I didn't understand anything about game plan. And also, I reckon I was quite an arrogant junior that I wouldn't listen either.
Okay.
And it did take me to get shredded down into the AFL system, where you're amongst the greatest players. And I had some brilliant players at Collingwood who I was able to feed off, where you go, wow, I had no idea where I sat in these kind of terms, and football IQ was just absolutely horrendous. So I definitely got drafted as a purely just, let's just see how that goes. Collingwood pretty much said, we've got the last pick of the draft. Let's just pick this kid, and if he flunks, he flunks.
So what the football IQ, what kind of did they put as a strategy, or what did you kind of do to kind of bring that up to speed?
Well, so Colts obviously have structures and set plays, but I was also playing as a forward, so it's more like team defense stuff, learning where to position yourself as a slow play. But then when it gets into offense, it's kind of, play your way, play how you would try and manufacture something. And then you get to AFL level and you have, 3 to 4 1.5 hour, 2 hour meetings on game plan structures. I went in there as a they were expecting me to play key forward. I was expected to know what the inside mids were doing at each stoppage. I was expected to know what the rucks taps were, how the back set up in a slow play kick in, where the forwards are supposed to sit. And it's all of a sudden it's just an explosion of information that on top of training every day, gymming every day, trying to recover. And then mentally, you're mentally fatigued because you're getting so much more information thrown at you that, I'd never dived into that aspect of football, which I think a lot of players that get drafted certainly had more of a football IQ than I. I don't think it, for me personally, was developed enough when I was a junior in Margaret River. I think it was, you've got raw talent, just use that.
Yeah, okay.
I think certainly I know now Margaret River's got some really great coaches involved in their junior talent ways, but I think that was, for me, that was an area that I just never had any experience with.
So looking back, what would have been, so knowing what you know now, what would you have done, or how could it have been better for you to prepare your football IQ being younger? Was it just having better coaches around? Or
I think not, I don't want to say like better coaches, better coaches with a better understanding of structures and game plan. I think it gets to a certain point in small country towns where it's literally whoever puts a hand up is now your coach. And I had some brilliant coaches in Margaret River, and I also had some that, as a 14-year-old, I may have known more about football, and at the time I didn't know anything. So it's hard in that area. I think in the city and the metro areas, there's such more of an exposure to elite coaches, and you can go to other programs and things like that. I think that's something that the country footballers are bred to be a bit more tougher and things like that, and instead of the mental side of the game.
It's also interesting you're saying you go to the AFL program and there's so much to learn, I guess, out of that in that first kind of period, that first month. You got to know that's a forward. You got to know what the backs are doing, setting, and then what are the inside mids, how they're set up, and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of people don't know there's that sort of in detail that everyone has to know at a football club.
Absolutely,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's what I had no idea about. But the education sessions that you do are probably the most tiring parts of your football program in the preseason, regardless of how long you've been in the system for. You train all day and you get conditioned to going in and training, and maybe you do weights straight off the track, or maybe you have lunch and then do weights. But then in the afternoon, when you're tired and you're starting to unwind, you need a couple of coffees, and then you go straight into an hour to 2 hour.
It's mentally draining. Yeah, it's mentally, because and
that's where it gets you. Is that at the end of the day, you're knackered, you want to go home, and you're trying to turn this on, and that's where even at St Kilda, I was 23, 24, and it still got me because I had 2 years out of the system, and I come back in, this is just, once again, you know it's on another level, but you don't experience it until you're there.
Yeah. So what was it? So a typical week, probably, to be fair, pretty easy to explain that, because every day kind of is, some days are similar, some days are different. From Monday through to Saturday, let's go like a pre-season when you're at Collingwood. That first year, what was that kind of like a Monday?
Collingwood had, at the time, I'm pretty sure, Monday and Friday we bookended the week with our bigger sessions. Wednesday was still a bit of a blowout. Thursday was off.
Yep.
And Tuesday was a half day. So a big session is Monday and Wednesday and Friday. Not as much Wednesday, but Monday and Friday certainly were just massive footballing sessions. So they can go from anywhere from 9 to 13, 14 Ks, depending on what kind of week you're having. And then you come off, you have lunch, you go into the gym, and then you do education sessions, and you get home, and you usually get home 4 o'clock, 4:30. If blokes want to do more touch, they go out and they do more touch, more kicking, recovery. If you want, you can get out of the club at 2:30, and then other players were getting out of the club at 5:30 because they were doing those extras. And I think those are the players that they need to improve, or they're slightly injured, or they're fringe players and they know it. And it's also about improving, but it's also about the coaches are seeing Jonathan Marsh staying back till 5:30, and that puts a good impression in their head, rightly or wrongly. That's what the system is. Tuesday, you'd probably do like something off legs, so a boxing and just a bit of a flush blowout. Wednesday is a little bit more of just purely football skills, maybe some running, not a heavy gym session. Thursday off, Friday, same as Monday.
Yeah.
And then at Collingwood, you'd have Thursday and Sunday off. So Saturday morning was a little bit of a trail run. So that went from anywhere from 6 Ks to 8. and it sounds so tough, but and it was tough for me because I'm not a great aerobic athlete, so I really struggle with it. But you don't pull up sore from it, which is weird. I know it's your third pretty much running session of the week, but it's pretty much just to flush your legs out. You may go have a swim, but then you go and have breakfast with your boys. You're done by 10 a.m., which is that was pretty cool. That was a nice day that you get it done early and then you just move on with your weekend.
So when you went to Collingwood, did they sit you down and say, this is what we, like, obviously you were light, did they say we need to put weight on you for you to play AFL?
I never had a chat like that.
Okay.
I think everyone at Collingwood kind of understood that I was a bit of a project player, except me. I thought I was just going to rock up and play. Once again, quite naive as a player and ignorant. But yeah, I certainly had a lot of people telling me, I had a good frame for being a bigger boy, and it's time to put weight on. But it wasn't sit down or you need to put on 10 kilos before you play an AFL game. It was more, for me at Collingwood, it was, the gym work's coming, but the football IQ stuff really needs to improve.
Okay.
And I struggled with that when I first got there until they moved me to be a key position backman. And that for some reason made it click for me. The structures, the understanding the game and the speeds of the game. It made it easy because I'm seeing everything in front of me. So I understand when the ball's fast, when it's slow, what I should be doing, more so as a forward where I just thought you just grab the ball, try and run in really quick, turn around and kick goals kind of thing. It made me understand the game on a whole new level.
So there was that move to the back. Was that after a year or so?
It was about 4 games into the first season of VFL. I was just playing horribly, and I was getting so anxious before a game about playing VFL already. And I just thought, this sucks. This can't be it. And I actually had one of my greatest coaches I've ever been coached by is Craig McRae, who's now at Hawthorn, but he was at Collingwood at the time as development coach. And I had one of the worst halves you'd ever see. I had 3 touches as a forward, and he came and gave me some strong feedback, and I kind of turned my back on him and was like, this is like bullshit, like don't speak to me like that. And he just wanted to tear my head off, and I just couldn't get it. And then anyway, so after the game we had a good heart to heart, and he just said, you can't show me that side of you need to trust me, and I'm giving you feedback because you need to trust me, and I'm saying the right stuff. And that kind of, it was one of those situations where your relationship takes 2 steps backwards and 7 steps forward. And we just became, after that, inseparable. We had that big heart-to-heart on Monday. We rocked up the next day. I apologised, and he also apologised because he was still trying to learn how to coach me, but I was definitely in the wrong. But then our relationship, just went to another level on that, which I thought, was brilliant.
So that changed, you kind of attitude changed there as well, like you're saying, a little bit arrogant.
Massively. And I've still got a lot of, I won't lie, like when I play football, there's so much arrogance about how I play football. But I think, and I sincerely hope that it starts and stops at football, especially on the field. I think when I get off it, and I've got this persona on field, and I think it's completely different to who I am off field. But that was certainly one of those things that tore layers off me. And, at 18, it's hard to self-reflect, but that one really, I drove home, I rang my mum, and she goes, mate, this is AFL, so you're in the wrong. And it does take a third perspective to be like, well, okay, she's probably right. So I did take some time to think about it. And then, when I went back, I thought, I just, like he's saying, I didn't trust him. So I just gave everything to him. I said, you just literally tell me how to live, how to train, how to understand the game, and I'm going to just eat it up. And that's how our relationship went from, being a coach and a player to we were really close throughout that time I spent with him at Collingwood.
Right. That's self-reflection, like you said, is massively important, because then if you you take everything away, you step away and you reflect on it, you don't have that emotion. You're not in the moment of being heated, and that you take it away, you're relaxed, and you get to think back what happened. Man, I blew up for no reason, or I said that where I probably shouldn't have said that, or maybe next time I need to do this better.
100%. My personal footballing story, I think my self-reflection's at quite a good level. I actually retired from Collingwood at 21 because I was mentally, I couldn't do it. And I had to take a step back from the game. So I think that side of me is at a level a bit better than some of my peers. I think I'm not talking about football even. I think self-reflection is something that in society is, and football is something that's not developed enough in a lot of people. I think people have think where they're at and where they actually are is completely different. And that's something I've learned through a lot of hard and shit lessons through football, that it always, and for everyone, it needs to be a key thing. So, if someone gives me feedback at footy, I need to understand where that's coming from and why I'm getting it. And you don't want to react straight away with snapping at someone, because they're probably right. And you got to understand why they're right, and you go, yeah, okay, that's fair.
A lot of the time as well, like if I've ever kind of gone to a mentor or something and I've asked for a bit of a feedback or something, a lot of times I record it as well. So I just so that's usually what happens if I sit there and just take it in my head. I'm always like battling back, so I don't really get to listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
I just record it, or like listen to it over again. I could sit back and reflect on it again where I'm not kind of in that emotional state.
100%. I think receiving negative feedback is one of the hardest things ever in anything. And you do become slightly accustomed to it at AFL, because at a normal job, how often are you getting peer reviewed?
Exactly.
Just reviewed on your performance, maybe once or twice a year, maybe having a mid-year and an end-of-year review. Football, you're having it weekly. AFL level, you're having it nearly daily. You're getting it from players, different coaches, support staff sometimes. So it's one of those things that has to be developed. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to cope. You're not going to be able to cope with players giving you feedback and then you not being able to handle it. You need to handle it. And yeah, exactly what you're saying. A lot of people, and I still do it as well. You get feedback you don't want to hear, and instantly in your head you're having a mental argument about how that's not right, or it's so hard to just cut the emotion out of it and just hear what they're saying and go, yeah, that's
the old chimp paradox. Like the chimp paradox is always that emotional side in the brain that's always fighting. Yeah, because you want to be right, and
absolutely
that sort of thing.
And whatever, rightly or wrongly, you did that action because you thought it was right at the time, and especially in football, I chose to do that kick because I thought it was right. It was wrong. People were telling me it's wrong, but I'm going, oh no, look, that was my decision. That's why I did it. It's really hard to do. It's like I'm saying, it's one of those things that not only in football but in life, it's such a hard skill to master.
You're saying as well, like how hard the whole like performance review is daily. And I always say that footy players or even athletes in general deserve that most respect, because it's every day you're putting your own reputation on the line every day. Training, you have to be like at the top of your game every day to make sure you're showing up and doing that sort of stuff. It's absolutely insane. A lot of people don't understand that side of it as well. They just take it what you're doing they don't take what you're doing for granted, but they don't expect that's what it's like being there. Yeah. And it does take a massive toll on you. That doesn't, like obviously you said by 21 you were mentally just drained. It takes a big toll on someone.
I think that's the side of football that a lot of AFL clubs are now putting so much time and effort into. I think Richmond have started that process first, and everyone's following suit. You can work your physical body as much as possible, and you're going to get stronger, you're going to get fitter. But if you don't bring the mind along with it, you can't have one without the other, in my opinion. And like you're saying, I think that's something that clubs have identified, and it's the next step up, and that's what general public don't understand about the AFL system, is that like you're saying, you give so much, and you give so much mentally, and then you'll cop some pretty disgusting comments on socials or in person about when you're not performing well, and that's fine, and you open yourself up to that in elite sport. That's unfortunately part of the parcel. But when it hurts is when you go, you have no idea that I am here later than everyone or earlier than everyone. I'm putting the time and effort in, and it's just not clicking for me. And then you can come and just tear shreds off me, and I just have to sit here and take it. And that is unfortunately what elite sport is all around the world in every facet of it.
It's not like accounting. You can learn to be an accountant. You can learn to crush numbers and all that sort of stuff. But you've got the skill. You've got the perform like your body, that sort of stuff. There's so many different factors that go along that really you can't control a large majority of it, really, as much as you'd like to think. You can't learn a skill as quickly as some person or anything like that as well. So it takes a lot of toll.
And there's also, you can be, I've seen some of the best players I've played with at the lower levels, VFL and WAFL, not get picked up because coaches just don't like them. I think my brother had that situation at Sydney. He was at Sydney's list for 6 years, and I'm pretty confident that the coach just didn't like him, so he didn't get enough of a crack. I personally believe that. And so that's another thing. Everyone thinks you're a bit of a failure as a footballer because, you played 25 games and then you're off the list. But it's, well, if I got drafted to another club, I could have been a 200-game player. Who knows? And those are the what-ifs that it sounds like a bit of an excuse, but they plague you when you leave the system. I know myself and my brother have dived into that a lot about maybe if there was more opportunity or maybe if we got a bit more encouragement, what we could have been. And yeah, it does sound like an excuse to a lot of people, but my brother and I've seen that on the negative end of it, and it's a hard one to wrap your head around. Going, what if? And I think a lot of the players that leave AFL thinking they had more to give would have that same thought process.
I feel like it'd be hard not to.
Absolutely. How many players at the AFL get delisted and say, "Yeah, I was shit, I deserve that"? No, none of them, because you don't think it should be you. And yeah, it's an incredible way to leave a sporting environment, not by your choice. It's hard.
I can imagine that something would be taken away from you that you'd still want to be there, but they get told not to.
Yeah.
If anything is not,
yeah,
you would hurt you inside, and to be, it's something you've given a lot of time to and a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Would be even harder.
Yeah, 100%. It's anyone that enjoys doing something and then someone takes it away from them for no reason. Well, not for no reason, but someone just takes it away from them without them wanting it to be over.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to want to push back on that.
It's hard to accept it.
Yeah, it is. I'm a bit more of a realist with my footballing career as well, so I've accepted it quite quickly because I understood I wasn't the best player, and my only qualms with how I exited the AFL was just there's a lot of I've said this and then I'm going to do that. My opinion is if you're going to delist me, just be open and honest that we don't see you in this team anymore, and you're done, and that's easy to understand.
Straight down the line.
Yeah, that's something that I had a problem with. But in terms of how I wasn't as an AFL player, I was completely average, below average. Obviously, I played 26 games and I didn't manage to be a regular in any of the teams I played for, and so I get it. I understand why I'm not in the AFL anymore.
Do you look at some of the players there and say they've the talent that they have is just ridiculous, on another level? No matter how hard you try, you probably can't get there.
Absolutely, I think that was also something that I'm saying, I'm quite a realist. And you're looking at last year, I'm looking at Max King, who's 19, 20, and he is just doing things at training that looks so easy, and yet I would never be able to do them. And I just go, well, that is why he is going to be like Nick Rewalt-esque, because it's just he was born with that. I can't do it. I could train my absolute ass off more than anyone else, and I still wouldn't be able to do what he wakes up and gets out of bed and just does.
So you think they're born with it?
100%. And let's take Max for example. Great work ethic, great kid. He's going to succeed because he works hard as well. But naturally, he is a freak, and that's the same that someone might view me as in the WAFL compared to them playing amateurs. It's just there's always a tier of skill and ability, and I was on the bottom end of it, looking up at AFL.
Yeah, okay. And so it's such a crazy thought, to be a crazy position to be in, and crazy way to think about the levels as well in different in a context as well. There's skill levels of tiers of skill levels, and the top competition players can make it on skill, players can make it on athleticism. Some evenly, some will have equal athleticism and talent. And then there's some who are just there to make the numbers up as well. It's a hard reality, but it's true.
It's a hard reality.
You have to pick a certain number of people in the squad.
Yeah. I think that is something that helped me understand it better. Just going, I'm not as good as X, X, and X, so I get it. I think that might not work for everyone, but that works for me. I like being told exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that's something that came from myself, knowing, after a while when I digested that I was getting delisted, I was going, well, yeah, fair enough. If it's because it's between him or me and these four, well, yeah, I'm not as good as them. So by all means, and I think that's something that, worked for me. And it sounds a bit grim, but it certainly helps you understand it and then just quickly move on, which is hard to do, but it's necessary to get on with the rest of your life.
What would you do outside of football? Like, say that crazy schedule during the week, and you had so much mentally to process from the day. How would you unwind at the end of the day to refresh you again for the next day? Would you do anything specific?
Especially when I was at Collingwood, I'd started living by myself actually. So I lived by myself. I was there for 3 years and I lived by myself for about a year and a half of it.
Okay.
The others was with other players. I play a lot of video games. I read a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I love catching up with mates for coffee. And that's pretty much how I spent my time. I try to do some study at Collingwood and it stressed me out more than what I think at the time I was struggling to get into the team, and then I was going home and I was stressing about starting uni. I just don't think that's healthy. I think it's healthier when you're looking forward to studying. And I was, I started stressing myself out. But those other things, not video games are easy to just unwind for me personally, and reading. I've always loved reading books. So I've got a little library at home of all the books that I've read growing up, and then I still just continue to add to it. And I'm not as much of a reader anymore, but I still, always have a book by my bedside table. When I find 20 minutes, I'll do it. And I think that's something that I've always loved, that you can do that, and for X amount of time, you are not an AFL football or anything. You're just in that moment, which is nice to find for me personally. Those were probably two things that I did.
Did you find it hard to kind of separate yourself, like an identity, kind of like you're a footballer, and then outside of it, you weren't really?
Not for me personally.
Yeah, okay.
Because I wasn't a superstar and people didn't recognise me. I feel that would be such a hard thing to accept or separate when you're going to coffee with mates and there's people trying to get autographs. And that happens, especially at Collingwood. Travis Cloak, Scott Penderbury, Dane Swan, they cannot go to normal cafe. They go to the cafes where they know the owner. So the owner can tell people to just lay off them. Things like that. So I found it quite easy because I could just walk the streets and no one gives a shit who I am. But that other side of it, I've seen, that would be extremely difficult. I feel trying to find yourself as a person as well as a footballer, where I had the absolute luxury and I really enjoyed it, that I could go wherever and do whatever. I could go to nightclubs and not have people know me and be worried that, someone's trying to extort that and things like that. That was very nice. And that's something I very much enjoyed about my career, is that I was a bit of a nobody. And I could just do what I wanted without, a whole lot of recognition.
Through your time at Collingwood, was there injury setbacks? Do you have stuff like that go through?
Yeah, I've had both my hamstrings surgically repaired. So I had my first year, my legs blew up, I reckon, from the gym. Well, that's what me and the strength conditioning coach talked about. He said, I reckon you've reacted too quickly to the weights as a first year player. So the next year I was actually on a bit more of a modified program.
So for that first year, was it just a normal, like, were you doing what everyone else was doing?
Yeah, we got eased into it, and then by the time end of preseason rolls around, you're into the normal season, you're pretty much running on a normal program. You definitely get spoon fed when you get there, and it's a slow 1 to 2 months of getting eased in. But after that, and because I was able to handle it, I was obviously not lifting the weight that other blokes were, but I was doing what they were doing. It wasn't a fully modified program after you get incorporated in. And then after the second year? And then it was pretty much exactly a year apart. I did exactly the same injury on my left side, and I believe that one was more of a mental fatigue. That's, halfway through my second year is probably when my mental health started deteriorating. And I'll always put that one down to, I don't think I was right to play, and I didn't know that yet. And I just kept playing football, thinking that obviously I was a footballer, but I hadn't had this awareness of catching myself slipping mentally to a point where I feel like I put my body in jeopardy. Yeah, so you did that second one playing in a game? Yeah, so pretty much exactly a year apart. One of the last couple of rounds was my right, and then in the last game of a final for Collingwood VFL was my second. So a year and 2 weeks apart or something like that. Yeah, go on. You talk about the mental health. At that time, you didn't realise. What did it take for you to realise that now, looking back? So you've had to have previous experience, understanding where your mental health was at. Yeah. Unfortunately, it came from my mum probably pulling me aside and telling me to go get help. Yeah. Okay. We had like a bit of a blow up at each other, and then she said that I think this is where you're at. I want you to go talk to someone.
Mhm.
And at the time, I just thought like, no chance. Don't give me that crap. I understood I was feeling shit. I didn't. Yeah, like I'm saying, that's where I reckon my self-awareness has developed so much, because when I did go on, I was like, oh, I'll shut up. I'll shut my mum up and I'll go and speak to someone. And then I spoke to someone and they go, ooh, yeah, come and talk to us. There might be a bit here.
Okay.
And so like my third year at Collingwood, I did a lot of work in this area. And that's what kind of led me to the decision to walk away, because I just didn't think that playing football, I'm not saying Collingwood or anything, but playing football at that level and in that environment was good for me. So I decided to, if I was going to fix where my head was at, I needed to do it in Perth with friends and family around me and not the pressures of playing AFL
Because
football.
it's a compounding effect, isn't it? Just
there's like, so much expectation, not from the public, but from myself. And at the end of that that second year, I actually managed to play some games. And then so in my third year, I was expecting to just play every game, and I wasn't. And I was so frustrated I wasn't. And it just, I think everything it was such a snowball effect. It was such a small thing that if I picked it up earlier, I would have been able to manage it better. But by the time I picked it up, it was a big snowball. And I just thought that, let's get rid of it by cutting ties with so much of that stress and anxiety. And it honestly did wonders for me.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made, which sounds stupid, leaving your dream job. But I came back here. At the time, I met my girlfriend and then played WAFL, and like I just had no pressure, no stress, and I was able to continue my work with psychs and seeking help, and I think I really blossomed from that.
Did you lose? Like, did you still love football just as much, but just mental effect was just you were just angry with everyone else?
I think I've never recovered that level of love for football.
Okay.
Ever, and that's weird to say because I did go back into the AFL.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think after that, football, I never looked at football the same again. From my experience at Collingwood, and rightly or wrongly, it's never been, before I got drafted, it was just footy is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I love football still, but I'm not going to rave about it. I barely speak about football outside of football. People understand I play East Fremantle and I have played AFL, and I really couldn't care less if we talk about it or not. I'm more than happy to sit down and have conversations with people about, who's playing well and what my tips are and things like that. I'm not shutting it down, but I won't actively pursue speaking about football. I like having a life outside of it, and I think right now I love it, and I'm very proud to be at East Fremantle. I'm very happy to be there, but also I don't love it like I loved it when I was 18.
That's crazy to think that someone who loved you went in as well, just to look back and to say it's not all that. Like for someone who's like younger could listen to this podcast, that would be something that they could think about as well. Being like football's not the only thing in life as well.
Absolutely.
There's more outside.
Yeah, my brother and I talked about this the other day about how our lives would look if we never played AFL, or we played AFL when we were 22, 23, and it would look vastly different. I think, it's just, unfortunately, it's one of those things that, having experiences like that, or like anything in your life, and for me it was football, it takes away that specialness of it. And I think a lot of people would have that situation with, a loved one or an event in their life and things like that. So it's not uncommon. It's just that,
it's not
it's
uncommon.
just that what happened and how I felt, it just took that shine off it.
Yeah.
So it's still there. There's still love there. It's just not as
not as innocent,
not as special. Which is, and that's fine.
You were saying when you're younger as well, you're naive to what the reality of it is.
Yeah.
And it does, when you get in it, it's hard.
Absolutely.
It beats at you a little bit, and you learn not to love it as much because of all the other stuff that goes around.
Yeah.
That's crazy. After you did that 2 years down at East Freo, and Juppy said on the podcast as well, when he was here, that you were almost ostracized a little bit. Let's say the way he put it in his words, you ostracized a little bit because you were doing all the extra stuff. Was that because you were at a AFL program and you knew what was expected to play?
Yeah, I definitely didn't adapt well. I came out very angry at Collingwood. Okay. And I've I really hated football at the time, but I played WAFL because I knew at some point that love would come back. There was a certain period through when I started at East Fremantle that I was angry at my situation, and then I think I definitely expressed that negatively on the standards of WAFL football. I won't sugarcoat that East Fremantle standards throughout that first preseason, especially that I was there, were just horrendous in certain aspects. A lot of it was good. A lot of it I just didn't understand was WAFL standards. And then also on top of that, blokes not rocking up in the right kit, and blokes when we're running laps are running on the inside of the lane and things like that. If you did that at AFL level, you've got 44 other blokes absolutely tearing you apart, including the captain. And then it was happening at East Fremantle, and I'm like, how dare someone run on the other side of the lane? And it's 5 centimetre difference, and it's not going to do anything to your time trial or the distance you run, but it is just a standard set at AFL, just taking one for example. So things like that I came down quite hard on. And yeah, I don't think it was received well at the time of where East Fremantle was at, and also my delivery of it. And okay. I can definitely deliver things better, especially then. It was always how dare you, why are you doing this, instead of a bit more of a, hey mate, I'm noticing you running on the other side of the lane, let's fix that. I was at the time though, I like gym work. I'm not a great runner, so my strength is my strength. I do a lot more gym than a lot of people, and that was just looked at as baffling. In those 2 years, I know that we'd finish training and I'd go into the gym, and I'd be the last to leave, and it's 8:30 and blokes are walking out and going, what are you doing? Yeah, but I enjoyed it. But it was also a bit weird that I was getting kind of a little bit, and a lot of the players that were looking down on me on it are not there. Which goes to say for itself. Yeah. But I was doing my extras, and then they just couldn't understand why. But for me, that's how I prepare, and I like to know that I've done that work before I go into a game. But it was kind of like why is he doing extras? We can leave. Let's leave. Yeah, it was like who can get out of the change room the quickest. Yeah, you can go home earlier. Exactly, and I get that, and I get that it's WAFL football and it's semi-professional, but the standards now are a lot of the blokes notice that I'm in the gym, and now I'm seeing a lot of blokes drip into the gym a bit more as well. And that's not me saying, let's go to the gym. I'll just do what I normally do. And I had a bloke the other day that I was in the gym later than anyone else, and he was walking out with his bag, and he said to me, I can't walk past and see you doing this. And then he came and did some extras. And I was so proud of him, and I thought that's such a chalk and cheese example of where East Fremantle was in the 2 years I was there and then left. That's awesome. Good. It's good young group there as well. Yeah, they're brilliant. It was such a big ask to help them drive the standards. I think when we got rid of a core group of players that weren't where we culturally wanted to be, and that's such a big ask to get rid of players of that caliber. They were great players, and they just didn't sit right in the East Fremantle way. But then to ask the young blokes to step up, saying, "Look at this void, step into it." Yeah, and that's not a wrong thing to do. It's just a big ask to do, and I think they've handled it extremely well. And then Matthew Jupp has tremendously improved the culture of the Sharks. It's almost single-handedly, and Bill and Dotty and the rest of the playing group have done a fantastic job. But I think it's been led by Bill, Dotty, and Juppy, which is I've come back and I'm quite proud to see how far he's developed in 2 years since I've been gone, which has been good. You did the one time the running session you did, and you were saying get run on the outside of the track. When I run now which is irregularly, but I'm going to do a session after this. I do run now on the outside of the track because it makes sense. Yeah. What's the point of running on the line? Run next to it, like exactly. Run around the oval. That's just. It's a weird. You can look at it as so many things, like, oh, let's do some 400s, but you end up running 395 meters. Scheme of things is not going to do a whole lot, but it's a standard that you're setting yourself. And like running through the line, don't just slow down and walk through the line and finish it. We had a couple young players when I said that then one of them was a little smartass, and he ran like 10 meters on the inside of the lane and like kind of looked at me cheekily, mate, brilliant. By all means, take the piss out of me. Yeah. But we're not doing the other way, because that's actually going to be harder for you and you're going to run more, so I don't actually care. But I liked it. You know, he listened to me and then had a little cheeky little dig at me, and that's good. But yeah, the opposite of it is not a good standard. And then what he was doing was, it was funny, but it was also a better standard. You know, you're running actually a little bit more than everyone else, and
you're running more.
I don't know if he realised it, just trying to be a little shit. But yeah, it was good, and I like that. I like that. You know, now at the club you can say something, and then the boys go, oh yeah, and they can follow the instructions and then add their own little, you know, quirks or personality to it, and that's what makes a football club a football club.
That's for sure. Now, obviously, you've been in the system for a while, so you know your body pretty well. Do you kind of have like a matrix of what you like to kind of like, in terms of like gym or like running sort of wise? Do you have like a matrix of what you like to hit before going into a game, knowing that I'm feeling good, I've hit these numbers, I've got a little bit more confidence under my belt now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not so black and white. You know, on our Wednesday mornings, I need to hit whatever I'm feeling, but I just need to know that I've emptied out on that squat rack. So I lift quite heavy on a Wednesday, which a lot of boys look at me and go, well, isn't that a bit closer to game day? But I need to hit that number to know. And the same thing, I need to do 2 upper bodies a week to go into that game feeling like I am at my physical best. And sometimes that changes. You know, we had that Friday night game against Peel.
Yep.
So
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So then I had to do a gym session on the Thursday because it was a shortened week, and I still did a big uppers on Friday. And me and Juppy had a conversation, is that too soon? And I would rather do that and be a little bit of fatigue than have not done it at all. I think for me personally, I would have felt better doing it the day before. And it's things like that. You got to kind of adapt you got to adapt your routine. But yeah, that's all. I just need to squat as heavy as I can on a Wednesday or sometime during the week, and just 2 upper bodies. And I usually go into the game feeling, and then obviously eating and drinking well, and I go into the game feeling quite fresh. And I think my GPS numbers and things, especially the last couple of weeks, I've really honed it down again since coming back from the system. Every year it has to chop and change, and it's definitely chopped and changed since I've come back from AFL to WAFL. So now I think I've got it quite down pat. You know, it's round 4.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I've had at least 6 weeks, including pracky matches, to just really nut it out. So I feel quite good about where it's at.
Do you supplement or anything like that to get yourself recovered, like vitamins, anything like that?
No, I protein between the gym for the gym sessions. But recovery for me is just a beach thing.
Yeah, okay.
So, and it's before the game. So before the game, if it's not, you know, blown out, I'll go and have a dip, and it makes me feel really refreshing.
So Saturday morning,
and then usually Sunday arvo, or Sunday morning and arvo for 1, and then Monday morning as well. So it's just, I think that's just a repeated recovery, and it makes me feel good. It's not too rigid on the recovery. It's just hydrate well, try and eat a okay meal Saturday night, which can be hard. You know, it's waffle, and you want to maybe enjoy yourself. Yeah, beers with your friends and eat a pub meal, but I'll try and get a pub meal that's not too bad for you. And then that, I reckon that is a big difference.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Instead of just smashing some KFC or some McDonald's, having something that's not as bad, and then going, oh, well, that was kind of cutting out something I'll have to recover for as well. So yeah,
I feel like what I've been doing lately with my own training, been dropping a couple of electrolytes, like just some getting like Boost or whatever. There's some of the ones you can get around as well. Just dropping a couple of electrolytes straight after training, and then getting that recovery. Because usually I do 1 or 2 train. I'll go Muay Thai, and then I'll hit some gym after, or sometimes I'll run, then go Muay Thai. But then just getting that straight in, some electrolytes just to kind of get the recovery process between, or rehydrate. Yeah. Sorry, that's probably the biggest one I found the last couple of weeks. I've been made me feel so much better just post. It's like not sitting down all lethargic, like waiting around for my meal. I just have some electrolytes, and I kind of feel almost like I've had a little bit of a coffee.
Yeah, I think personally, spending that time in Noosa last year really rammed home what hydration does.
Yeah,
because it's so hot and humid, and you just lose so much liquid through sweat throughout a game, and then afterwards you feel horrible if you haven't hydrated properly. That was actually kind of a learning curve, because in Melbourne it's cold all the time, and you can kind of get away a little bit with having poor hydration. You can't in Noosa. So that was something that I took away from that.
Yeah.
So now my hydration levels are pretty good throughout the season, because I understand at the extreme of what it can do to your body and how it affects it.
100%.
It was such a good way to have your eyes opened about, if you don't drink properly before a game and then during and then after, you're lying in bed on a Sunday just feeling horrible and headaches and throbbing. And so, I agree with you. I think hydration is something that, until recently I took seriously, but now it's fully a non-negotiable.
Yeah, obviously we all know that hydration is important, but I think a little bit we're kind of naive to the fact, like, if it goes bad, like how important it actually is if you kind of, drop some electrolytes in there and you actually, they taste a bit better than just plain water.
100%. Yeah.
This nice ice cold water, a little bit of orange and
it makes sitting there sipping it throughout the day a bit better, or the next day it makes it easier as well. So I agree with you. If you can chuck something in it and it's benefiting your body as well, it's much better.
So what? So after you played 2 years back at East Freo, was it just a coincidence that St Kilda came knocking on the door, or was it you entered the draft?
Yeah, there's a little bit to it. So I had 2 years at East Fremantle, and then my partner at the time said, I'm moving to Melbourne regardless of what you're doing, kind of thing. So it was a little bit of a...
All right.
Yeah, it was interesting. But, at this time, we'd been dating for 2 years, and I thought that I could play state league footy anywhere, was my thoughts, and get paid for it. I could play VFL, NEFL, and be a sought after player in some regards. So I thought that's no dramas. I took that opportunity to move. We moved, and I took that opportunity to play for that coach. I developed a really good relationship. He was at Richmond VFL as the head coach, and I just zeroed in on him. So a lot of the VFL clubs heard I was coming, and I just didn't even field their queries or calls. I just said, I'm going straight. I don't care what you're paying me. Just get me to Richmond VFL. And that was a really good decision for me. So we moved over there, and then I trained at Richmond VFL for about 2 months. And then I played in a pracky match with the AFL team. So they needed numbers. Okay. And I played really well. Again, it was cool because I was playing with Dusty Martin. He was like on my team, Trent Cotchin, Dion Prestia and things like that. It was so cool playing with those absolute jets of an AFL team again. I think that helped me. So I played really well. And then the next week, it was a VFL practice match, and they rested me. They said, because you played last week, we're going to play some other blokes. And St Kilda messaged me on Friday and said, will you be at the game on Saturday for a chat? Completely random. Never talked to him. The James Gallagher, the list manager, just said, like, if you're there, I'll catch up with you. So, I'll be there. So the next day I caught up with him, and he just said, we've had some key backs go down. We're looking at you for the supplement something program, the SSP, where you can sign a player all the way up to round 1. So the draft has been and gone. I put my name in the draft, didn't get drafted. Literally no clubs talked to me. I came second to BNF East Fremantle. No one gave a shit who I was, what I was doing. So I was like, fair enough. I'm pretty much done with AFL. Yeah. I'll go play VFL for a coach I really love and see if that can reignite my career. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how St Kilda got on my radar, but they sent me that message on a Friday. I talked to him on Saturday, and I was drafted on Wednesday.
Wow.
It was a complete turnaround like that. And it was pretty cool. But then on top of that, I got drafted a week before round 1. I got signed by St Kilda a week before round 1, and I had to enter this club that I knew one person, and even the first years had since November to develop these relationships. And I've just walked in, and the worst thing about it was that there was about 4 key backs injured. But then the key backs who thought they were the next in line were looking at me going, who's this kid? So competition. Yeah, I had 3 or 4 blokes that it took them a while to warm up with me, because I turned into another person they had to jump. I was another hurdle, whereas you kind of go through that throughout pre-season of assessing where you're at in the team and understanding it and accepting it. And then all of a sudden it gets to just before round 1, and they're like, is this bloke just going to come in and play? Because there was a couple of rumours that St Kilda might play me, and that was never in the cards. Yeah. But the media just decided to make like a Hail Mary of a prediction. Yeah, okay. So that was tough for me, going into a team where, and I knew one person out of, the whole playing list and the support staff and the coaches. And then on top of that, a couple of blokes are not too sure about me. It was strange. It was very strange. And that's gone from, I settled into it was a crap job, but I was working in a warehouse. I settled into that, and I actually loved it. Yeah, okay. I enjoyed it. I had a great boss, had great people I worked with, and I loved it. And I loved Richmond VFL. Like, if there's ever been a time I've enjoyed my footy, more as much as when I was a junior. It was that 2 months at Richmond. It was just
right.
incredible. So I've gone from having a pretty stable life to all of a sudden just like back in the AFL, back into that environment. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah, okay.
But it was just usually, you put your name for the draft, you're expecting to get drafted. You go get drafted, and then you got a preseason to do it, to handle those expectations and the pressures. And then all of a sudden it was just straight into, which was, in a way, it was pretty cool. I got to skip an AFL preseason, which I don't like doing. They put me through like a mini 2-week preseason to get me up to standard, but it wasn't as bad as 6 months of or whatever it is. So yeah, it was so strange how that came about.
Yeah, right. What's kind of the worst preseason? Like, what's so? Well, obviously I know what's so bad about it, but it's just the running, the constant running.
Yeah,
the compound effect.
I actually, to be honest, my AFL preseasons have been really good.
Okay.
One of the WAFL preseasons, I'm not going to name names, but we were told to just run, and they weren't going to tell us how far, ever. Throughout the whole preseason.
Oh, no, to say stop.
They just said run until I say stop.
Yeah, okay.
And just for me, I just need to know how far I'm running, because if you tell me to run 8 400s, I know how much I'm running. But if you don't tell me we're running 8 400s, I'm coasting 6 of them because I'm thinking we're running 20. If you know what I mean? Like, because you're not telling me the quantity, I'm not going to give my all for all of them because I don't know how many we're doing. And we could be here till 6 a.m. in the morning. I don't know. And that's what kind of annoyed me, is that, we do 10 100s, but we didn't know we're doing 10. And it gets to 9, and then he goes, all right, last one. And I'm like, oh, mate, I actually could have given a whole lot more for the other 9. I just didn't agree with it. And that was something that really played with me all pre-season. So that was kind of one of the ones that I really struggled with. And then on top of that, we had this other session where I was thinking we were going to do not as much, and then we did so much. And that's one of the only times I spewed.
Oh, really? You're not a spewer?
Never. And I full on threw up in a WAFL preseason. So, and apart from that, like, my AFL ones actually haven't been too bad, but I'm not a preseason man.
No. Get out and play.
Yeah, just
show what you got.
Do as much preseason with ball in hand and playing footy as possible is my thing. Yeah. And then if you need to top up running, then let's make it as short as possible and more ball, more game simulation than anything. But yeah,
well, the shortened preseasons now are going to be best for you.
Absolute blessing. Yeah.
The shorter the preseason.
Yeah. My second year at St Kilda, they extended the Christmas break by 3 weeks instead of 2.
Yep.
For AFL players, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That seriously felt like a break. Was before you had 14 days, and I'd usually fly home from Melbourne to Perth. And by the time and it's 14 days, it's a significant amount of time. But yeah, that just felt like it wasn't too long. And then the 3 weeks was, really good. So I'm all for a shortened preseason and a longer break for players.
Obviously, that gives you the mental rest as well. You can kind of get back to life, see your loved ones and all this sort of stuff.
Same as WAFL. I think WAFL's certainly harder in AFL in terms of you have to work and then you have to do your running or your football. So you give players more of a break, let them get into their own training routine. And if they don't, then they're going to suffer when they come back to the club. But, a lot of the boys at East Fremantle were so diligent with their running and their programs that, you can actually give them a bit longer off because they're ticking the boxes. It's one of those ones you just got to trust your playing group.
Trust is hard to build, though.
Absolutely. No, I'm just saying this purely as a playing point of view. But trust, and it hard to build, very quick to get taken away. So I understand the complexities of it from a coaching point of view as well. I'm just always going to be an advocate for give me as long off as possible. Yeah.
100%. I want the same too. It gives me a bit more of a break.
Who doesn't want holidays, yearly round, I was talking to my friends today about how good it would be to just to win the lotto and not work. So everyone. I
don't know though. I reckon there have to be a little bit. You have to have kind of a meaning. Work provides. A lot of people.
I said to him today, if we won the lotto, we'd buy a cafe.
Yeah.
And then hand it to someone else to manage, and we just
sit back,
trot along with our dogs, and check in, grab a croissant and walk home. But yeah, that's the dream.
I don't know. That's the dream, is it? To have a cafe?
Pretty much.
You just sit there, just drink your own
a successful cafe. Where
in Perth? Or Melbourne?
Yeah, I would like to. My actual dream is to open up a cafe because I think, and the boys know this, I can't stand Perth cafes. I think I'd be able to do it a bit better. And
shit.
I'm quite a whiz on my little coffee machine. So
Yeah, right.
I rate myself.
Is that why I didn't want mine?
Coffee.
Is that why you want it?
Yeah, well, yours is
Just a pod.
pod, which is just
Not good. I know it's not good, but fucking need the caffeine.
an insult to coffee. I'm a snob, yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's good.
Big time.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, so
You gotta be precious about something.
got to enjoy something in life, and
Mine's weights.
coffee's not. Yeah, well, there you go. Mine's coffee.
Yeah. Fuck no, that's crazy. Would you? Is it because Melbourne, your sport over in Melbourne?
Yeah, well, obviously the Melbourne cafes are just unbelievable, and I just grew up. AFL lifestyle was seriously finish training, go get coffee with everyone, and it
Really, other than the training at 4 o'clock
every week. Oh, maybe not the
2
4
o'clock.
Sometimes the 4 o'clock ones actually. A lot of the boys, but the half days, the weekends after the game on a Sunday on the recovery day, it is always do your weights, coffee, recovery, coffee. Collingwood played a lot of Friday, Saturday nights.
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, coffee, lunch with other boys. It was all it was, and I just developed such a love for that.
Are you brunch as well?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Love having a yarn and a chat, and that's how I became good friends with all the people I'm good friends with. At AFL level, was because 6 of them were going to coffee, and I'd just invite myself. Especially as a new player at St Kilda.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the boys actually invited me, which is really good. But I would just jump into every opportunity to go get coffee or brunch with someone, and a lot of people, and that's actually how I learnt about where I lived in Richmond, and South Yarra in Melbourne and stuff, because I was living with Goldsack, and we went to like all these cafes. It was always a different cafe. It's actually such a good way to see Melbourne.
What'd you go to brunch meal?
In Melbourne, when I was there at St Kilda, my favourite was a sweet chili chicken roti from this cafe, and I just fell in love with that. And it was just so easy because you rock up, it's in the window, say that coffee, bang, it's out in 10 minutes, and it was just
like a quick.
It was spot on, yeah. So that I do enjoy that.
I reckon nothing beats fresh smoked salmon.
I'm not a salmon.
You're not a smoked salmon?
No, I've kind of gone through that phase.
Yeah, okay.
And I think I smacked it way too hard. It's like when people get too drunk off a certain amount of alcohol.
Yeah.
And I've gone that on salmon.
But I'm the same with like salmon fillets. Like I can't eat salmon, or even tuna. I'm like with tuna. I can't eat tuna anymore. Tuna, broccoli, and rice. Can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
I've done too many years.
That's just not a meal. But
yeah, no, I did some stupid things when I was younger.
Yeah,
I tried to be shredded and shit like that, and I got shredded. Fucking look good.
Did you?
Too much effort, man.
I don't need
too much effort.
I don't need a photo of that.
Do you want a photo? I'll show you
right now.
Yeah, I'll show you right now because I want to prove it. I've been learning how to edit the video so I can put the photos up. This was back. Let's have a look at the year. It's pretty easy because I just go straight to the top of the camera roll. That's where was my lens? 2000 and where are we? There we go. So I reckon I weighed in roughly around 79. Fuck, where am I? I would have been 79. Yeah.
Jeez.
And now I'm 100. I was 105 this morning.
Ooh, rooster, man. What happened?
I was weak as piss. Like I was only benching like 90 kilos. There.
Looks good.
I did look good, but it was too much pressure.
Get back to it.
Nah. I don't want to go that long. That's too hard.
Yeah. Oh.
I get too hungry now, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I like food. Food's good.
I see lots of meat. That's my problem. Too much meat. Actually, no, the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been doing a lot of meat. Some veggies like pumpkin and carrots, that sort of stuff. I live by myself, so I come home and after training it's just quick, easy meal. So it's usually steak salad or burritos, and it's always a meat based thing. But yeah, I always try and make sure it's a healthy meal, but it's so easy to do that instead of, because it just tastes so good.
Yeah, and
I'm bad for sugar. Like sugar is all like sweet, like ice cream.
Yeah,
shit like that. Eating it, you feel so good. Like it feels so good to eat it, and then the 30 minutes later, you fucking pay for it.
I had a big
and you
detox.
Pay for it when you train as well.
I had a big sugar detox the last year.
Yeah.
And I haven't cut it out completely, but yeah, I would have a lot of training days. It was a training day thing, big training day, and just I would get home and I would just have an absolute irresistible urge. So I've kind of weeded that out.
It is. It's like a drug, so you're gonna crave it.
weeded that out of my routine, especially at the AFL level, which was good actually because I think it was detrimental to play games and then
I feel like when I have like lots of sugar, so whatever, like my joints get real like I feel like they feel rusty, like especially my hands and elbows. I get real like creaky.
I've
just inflamed.
Discovered now I can't actually finish. Like I just used to be able to finish a block of chocolate, and now I can get halfway through and start feeling sick, which is a good sign, I reckon. Instead of just smacking a family block every weekend. So
yeah, I've had some dark days.
Oh yeah,
I've done some of those.
Let's not get into that.
It'd be quite embarrassing for you. Trust me, it won't be as embarrassing as mine.
Yeah,
I'm bad.
There you go.
All right. So what else has been going on? Much else?
Just I started working for New Choice Homes, like I said. Yeah.
Happy with where you're at with the footy?
Yeah, I think I'll improve better. I think my body's still getting used to a couple of things in the WAFL and just training loads while working and things like that. Just making myself feel good. Live by myself with Dotty's just giving me his rental. So that's nice. That's kind of a different thing. I haven't lived by myself since, I was at Collingwood. So I'm adapting to that, but I love it. I do love my own space and I love quiet at my house. So it's really nice to come back to.
You going to get back into reading again?
I have, yeah. I'm halfway through it.
What do you win?
A book. It's a bloke called David Mishi.
Okay.
This is actually like a bit of the mindfulness stuff. So I've read 3 or 4 of his, slightly repetitive, his stuff, but this is the 4th one. And he introduces a lot of topics and doesn't dive too deep into them. It's more of I'm showing you something, you go and do your own discovery on it. So this one's about mindfulness and I think it's more of a starting point for a lot of people with their meditation journey, which is something that I've dived into quite a lot in the last couple of years. It's not like a eye-opening thing for me, but it's just nice to get someone else's perspective on what it does and why you do it and things like that. So I think it's always good to just relearn the benefits of things like that.
Do you find it helps you just kind of relax the meditating? Yeah,
I do it as much as I can. I do it in the morning and I got a bit of a journal that I jot things down in and so it's mindfulness and gratitude, I think, are 2 massive things that people ignore or choose not to do. So it's something, part of my day is, try and do something for someone else that you're not expecting something back for.
Yeah,
something small, something completely small. Open the door for someone, pay for someone's coffee, with your mate, and just don't say you get the next one or something like that. And then so football games, I meditate before when I wake up, and then now I've got it in my routine. Now that I know, especially at home games, I know that the coach's room is going to be empty 5 minutes before you start the warm up. So I go up there by myself, and no one's caught on to that yet, actually. So it's nice because the coach's room is nice and quiet, and it's upstairs away from a lot of the noise. And I just go there and just unwind, and it's not visualization, but I'm manifesting on nothing. It's literally just my heart rate's always up. And it just relaxes me before the game. And then it's interesting because I can imagine I come down and I start warming up and I play, and no one would know that I've just sat
100%
for 5 minutes because I'm allowed when I'm at football. But
full of energy.
Yeah, well, I could easily go and this week I could easily just shut up and not say a word. I think I'm still finding that balance of what the team wants. I think I took it too far rounds 1 and 2, to be honest, where, especially like round 2, I think on field I was a bit chirpier, and I took that too far, and I don't think our team likes that much. So I had a bit of a focus point last week. I still chirped a couple of people that were pissing me off throughout the game, and I said some good ones, but no, it wasn't like a 4-quarter thing. It was more just here and there. If someone's running past me, I'll whisper something in their ear. So, but that's something that I'm trying to get used to, because when I was at St Kilda, me and my best mate would do it, and it would fire both of us up, and he would chirp someone and someone would go at him, and I'd come in, and it would just, it was hilarious. B, it helped us play really well together. And it kind of like always kept us in the zone. Whereas I think a lot of the boys at East Fremantle don't want that. They just want to go about their footy. So that's like a learning curve for me because I've just come from 2 years of me and my mate just talking crap for 4 quarters. As much as we talk to the other teammates, but if we see an opportunity to get into someone, we would.
Yeah.
And then we'd have each other's backs with it. And I don't think East Fremantle is as chirpy as other teams I've played for. So I am trying to adapt to that because I don't want to make people on the field feel uncomfortable because I'm just sitting there ripping on blokes for 4 quarters. I am quite mindful of how it impacts others instead of just me saying something funny and laughing about it later on. Right. Like after the game, I'm actually trying to be like, oh, okay, that's not what this team needs. And I need a little bit of it. So that's where I'll get an opportunity to do it.
That's interesting.
Every now and then, yeah.
So that meditating, that brings that anxiety down before a game.
It's not really anxiety. It's like I don't get anxious before WAFL games, really. Yeah. It's more just, it's just relaxing. And I always find that when I go into it, my heart rate's really up because I'm still figuring out that where I should be in terms of boisterous levels for this team, for WAFL, for East Fremantle. And so I think that's something that just, instead of just going too far, I can just reset a little bit, come down with a clear head and assess more of a situation instead of just going, oh, it's football. At St Kilda, I was supposed I could be a bit more revved up and the boys would respond to that a bit more. I don't think that's the same at East Fremantle, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think either of them have any impact on success. I think you could be a quiet team and win premierships, and you could be Hawthorn were pretty bad at it when they were up and about. They were just arrogant and loud, and that's fine. I think it's just having 2 different teams, and especially for me, I've played for a lot of different teams in a short amount of time. It's hard to understand what everyone needs in that team and where you fit in it.
So, do you ever do any of that? Like, do you control your breathing at all during the game as well? Like, you come off, try to get your heart rate back down so you can recover quicker at all?
No. So my thing during a game, and this is something we developed at St Kilda, is everyone's got a trigger.
Yep.
So it's something that you do that gets you off what you say. For me, I get extremely annoyed when I've missed a set shot or I've dropped a mark or things like that I should do for the team and I have failed it. And my triggers, I'll just clap really loud, really hard. So there's a little bit of pain in my hands, but it gets me straight on to the next thing. So I do it. I do it quite frequently when something doesn't go my way, or even if I'm just annoyed in the game, I'll just clap my hands together, and that's something that for me it just goes like, right, on to the next one. St Kilda developed something that we were supposed to know everyone's triggers in a forward line. So I one of them was touching the bloke's neck, another one was grabbing grass and rub it between his hands, another one was just his shoulders back and smile. And we were supposed to know everyone's, because then if I identified that you were having a bad moment or a bad game, I'd just tell you your trigger, and then you would do it, and then we'd move on together.
Oh, so you would tell them, and then they would do it. And
I'd tell them to do their trigger.
Yeah, do their trigger, and then they'd do that.
It's time for you to move on from that drop mark or that missed set shot.
Oh, wow.
It's a way for us to be accountable for other people's performances, not just our own.
Did you feel that it helped?
100%. It was great. And I felt like it helped when, I'll say it again, my best mate and I played, because I would always listen to what he had to say and he would always listen to what I had to say. And I was more in tune with him because I didn't play a whole lot with the other AFL boys. I didn't have that real connection of, I can understand when you're playing poorly. Mm-hmm. So myself and Nick Hind, we were really good at knowing when the other one was a bit frustrated or having a down game. So we'd be able to do it very well. And the other boys in the AFL could do it together, like Tim Membry and Jack Loney were really good mates. They could spot it with each other as well. So it was, as much as I knew everyone's, it was just make sure, especially the people that you can impact, make sure you get to them. So I think it was brilliant.
That's awesome. Who brought that in? Is that a psych thing?
Richmond brought it in.
Oh, and then
I don't know how it got to St Kilda, but Dan Butler got to St Kilda and he clarified it and told us how it worked at Richmond, but he didn't bring. I don't think he brought it in. He didn't come in and say, "This is what we should do." We just had a sports psych named Ben Robbins, who I'm pretty sure wanted to implement it, and it was not a bad thing. It was good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and that's just another level of getting to know not only how people play, but how they respond to things and their personality type. So it's hard. It's hard at WAFL level because you don't spend nearly as much time as you do at AFL level, and you don't have the time to dive into these topics. You get there, you train, you do your weights, you try and get the boys home because there's so much you don't want to have so many contact hours at the club. It's semi-professional. So it is something that it would be very hard to do at WAFL level, but certainly at AFL level.
How did you find your experience with the called the Hub? Did you obviously went up to Hub, the Queensland Hub?
Yeah,
so you were?
We were in Noosa.
Noosa, yeah.
Yeah, sucked. Hated it. Yeah, with a passion. It was good for a month.
Yeah.
And then the novelty wore off, and it was like a prison. You couldn't sit down and eat meals. You had to order takeaway coffees. You couldn't just go to the beach and sit down. We were in Noosa, in like one of the most beautiful spots in the world, and you had to go to the beach and walk. You couldn't just sit at the beach. If you went and had a swim, you had to be moving. You couldn't just plod in the water. It was just, there were so many restrictions from the AFL because the AFL season needed to go ahead. So it's completely understandable. But after that, I actually came home from Noosa to Perth, and I had such social anxiety because I had to avoid crowds for 4 or 5 months. And then the day one I got out of quarantine, I went to a busy cafe and I nearly had a panic attack.
Yeah, right.
Because
you didn't know what to do.
I didn't know what to do, and I nearly ordered my coffee and walked straight out because I was used to being outside. They had to bring your coffee to you. You weren't allowed to be inside.
Oh, right.
And I was like, no, don't worry about it, mate. You can sit down, you can enjoy it. But I lasted about 20 minutes. Instead of sitting down for a full meal, I just wolfed my meal down, had my coffee, and just got out of there. And I still kind of feel the effects of it, especially like on a Saturday night or something. If you go out for dinner and drinks, and then it's a busy restaurant, I'm like, oh, who's in here? And it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it's something that you're still getting used to. And this has affected a lot of the people that came out of that hub. I know for a fact, I've had many a conversation about it. It was something that, unfortunately, that's just a side effect of, isolating yourself for that amount of time.
It's odd how quickly we all like kind of got conditioned to being so separate from everyone.
And you got conditioned to, I got conditioned to just sitting on my couch at home and not doing anything. And in Noosa, I got conditioned to grab my food, go back to my my like apartment room because I was sick of living with 44 blokes, their partners and coaches. I was sick of seeing all the coaches at dinner. You don't have that at AFL normal. When you're at home, you don't see the coach for dinner. You see him for X amount of time at the club. Then you leave and you're your own person. Yeah. Whereas we'd finish training and then you go have a shower and you go and get your meal, and then the coaches are there, and same thing for lunch and same thing for breakfast. And it was so overwhelming in that regard. Was
it weird as well with coach? Like, is it you having dinner with the coach and that was it hard to kind of separate the training? Like, would they talk about training during that time?
And that's what I'm saying. I don't like talking about football, so that's where I'd be. Well, I'd rather go and sit and watch TV by myself. Instead of sitting here and talking about how good someone trained today. Yeah. And because then in your head you go, oh, well, maybe I didn't train as well as I did. And then instead of just going home and going back to that apartment I was living in and just sitting down relaxing.
And of course, that would have football. Yeah, that's all that you would have been doing there. So that's all you could talk about, really.
Exactly.
There was nothing else.
There was nothing else. And I got into a bit of fishing when I was up there, but
right.
So that was good to talk to people about, but it doesn't last long. It's not a deep conversation about it. It's pretty much, did you catch anything? No, mate. Sweet. How was footy today? It's just, it was hard because you always had that football conversation in the back of your head about training and performance and things. So, it
gets boring, surely. Yeah.
Oh, big time. And it gets boring for some. There's a couple of blokes that just eat, breathe, sleep footy. I get that. I get that you love it. It's just not for me, really.
Yeah, no, I feel that. So what kind of fishing were you? Were they just off the jetty?
We went to a different couple of things. There's really good flathead in Noosa.
Oh, really?
So we were hunting flathead, and a couple of the boys took it way too seriously. I didn't take it as seriously, but I was disappointed I never caught one.
You never caught one?
Never caught one.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately. And I went out.
They've got teeth.
Went out quite a bit. They do have teeth.
You want to get bit?
No. A couple of blokes, one day we went out there and this bloke first cast pulled in a flatty.
Oh,
first cast, and we were just going, we are on today. And then we were there for another 4.5 hours and not one bite of anything. I don't know how he did it, but it was just good to we had a little fishing group and we just went out.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That was part of the thing. For some reason, this is just how ridiculous it is that standing there with a fishing rod in your hand counteracted all the things we weren't allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to sit in a cafe or sit outside a cafe and have a coffee, but I'm allowed to stand on the beach and not move for 4 hours and fish. So we kind of found a little loophole with that. I'm probably going to get in trouble if anyone sees this because it might not have been. But that's what we did. We just sit off a jetty. And that's when we could actually sit there and have a yarn. And fish and do something fun like that. That was pretty cool. That was you found those little gems in that time, and there's a bit. Geez, they were few and far between.
Yeah, I can imagine. So who took how seriously did they start taking? They buy their own rods. They learn how to tie the knots.
So I bought like my own rod for $60, and then a shitty little tackle box, and I already know how to tie fishing knots, so it wasn't that big of a deal. A couple of the boys have wasted some $400 on rods and then left them at the compound. They just go, you know what, I'm actually not going to fish when I get home. And then so the RACV and Noosa probably inherited about 16 rods from blokes.
Did you have to have like a fishing license and stuff? No, okay.
Nah,
Because in Melbourne, I think you do. Is that right?
I'm actually not too sure.
Okay.
I'm not a fisherman. But
I used to be if you couldn't tell.
There you go.
Used to be. I haven't done it for years. Used to go off the jetty all the time to catch.
I've done it as a kid. That's how I kind of knew the knots and things like that. But I literally just did it because I couldn't stay in the compound anymore. I just wanted to get out and go for a bit of a walk and a fish. So it was just something different to do. I
go through really weird patches of like obsession with stuff, like fishing. I was like mad obsessed. I could do like all the little like the gents, all that sort of stuff, all the little baits, the burley, all that sort of stuff. We used to go fishing, tying the knots, just had my own tackle. Like I had 3-tier tackle box, like the drawers and squid jigs. I had that. I went to golf. I was crazy about golf for a while. And then obviously lifting weights and that sort of stuff, bodybuilding, blah, blah, blah. And then now it's like martial arts.
You sound a bit like me because there was times where I stayed up researching where the biggest flatties were in Noosa for a significant amount of time. However, I've stopped myself from getting addicted to golf. And I like lifting weights, but it's not a big obsession. But then, there's just other things in my life. Like I like collecting old things. Some old Pokemon cards and things like that.
Oh, yeah?
Things that I think will be worth money in the future. That's what.
You got a Charizard yet?
Yeah, I got a couple actually.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I'm a big dog.
The shiny one?
Yeah.
Is it PSA 10 approved?
Nah, it's 8.
Oh, no.
2 8. The PSA 10's like $60,000.
Fucking man, the rest.
Yeah, I'm happy with.
Dude, you seem pretty chuffed. Yeah, I'll be fucking happy with that.
I'm pretty chuffed. I'm hoping that one day that's a house deposit. That's my little goal. And I think that'd be pretty cool trading in bits of cardboard for a house. I think that's ridiculous, but
it's absolutely insane.
It's stupid to say like that. It's 3 bits of cardboard and I might be able to get a house, but that's the world we live in, which is insane.
Have you Logan Paul is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's doing like live drops. I was watching it here on TV, and my girlfriend's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, jumping up and down when he pulled like a Charizard. I'm like, "Oh." Yeah. He's like, "You are lost, child." Like,
I watched that live. I watched that live, and then afterward, I just couldn't believe I just sat there for 2 hours watching Logan.
Yeah, but it was like fun.
It was great, but yeah.
Some people dropped some money, like he was buying the people $10,000 for like little packs.
No, it was $20,000 a pack.
Fuck.
And then the biggest was someone spent. Yeah, they bought 6 packs. It was the largest amount of packs. That's a lot of money. I'm kind of up to date with all that stuff, which I find fun for me personally, just to privately do, and I keep them at home and I
awesome.
put them right away so no one
thinks
I'm a weirdo. But yeah, if anyone knows me and they know and they ask, I'm a pretty proud bloke, and I'll just
pull them all out.
Wham! Look at this. Yeah, it's pretty
PSA good. 8. So what's the PSA 8? Was like a little bit of shadow in the picture? It's so crazy how they can nut it out. And
it's.
Did you buy it or did you pull it?
Nah, I bought both of them. I bought the important ones. They're like off center.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
A little bit of shadow, shit like that. There's literally, you and I wouldn't be able to tell between an 8 and a 10, but whoever grades it.
I've seen videos and the people are looking at them like, 9. I'm like, what?
They're pretty accurate at it, but I don't look at them. I've put them away safely.
Safekeeping.
Yeah, because I think if I've got a bunch of footballers coming over and I've got something like that on display, there's no doubt in my mind someone's going to grab it and break it or open it or something.
Yeah.
A nightmare situation might happen. And so I just, the only thing I've got on display in my house is plants, really.
Plants?
Yeah.
What, do you know what plants? Do you know what plants they are? Or do you just like buy them randomly?
I bought
fiddle leaf?
Random ones. There's a fiddle leaf. There's a Swiss cheese plant. I don't know what it's
Swiss
called.
cheese.
A peace lily from Hot Fuzz, if you've ever seen that.
No.
Well, that was important for me to get. And then the other day I bought some sunflowers and strawberries to grow. So
nice.
I'm turning into a bit of a plant guy.
Yeah, right.
I've really, really changed up my hobbies lately.
That's weird.
Which is weird, yeah. So my house looks like a 40-year-old hippies chicks.
That's all right.
That's cool.
No.
Yeah.
No crimes with that. So strawberry, like, you're going to grow out a whole veggie garden or anything like that?
It's like a little bucket.
Cool.
I'm just seeing what I can grow. I'm trying to grow some avocados because apparently they take 2 to 12 years or something.
Yeah, fucking ridiculous how long they take.
I've got 6 of them going really well, actually. So it's just something that
I reckon if you started that about 6 years ago, you'd be in a fortune right now.
Well, my cousin actually, his goal is he's growing one and it's going really well, and he's going to plant it when he buys a house in the front yard. And I just think that's such a brilliant idea. Not obviously owning a house is an amazing accomplishment, but also just adding that little touch to it and knowing that you did. I just think that's lovely. Insane. So that kind of got me the other day, and then I've started getting into that a bit, which is, I just think that's a cool way to look at getting something like that.
I would have had some bad luck with my fiddle. Well, we had a little fiddle leaf here, or have a bit of conjecture to it.
Still,
it's. Casey left. She went back to Adelaide, and I was meant to look after it, but she didn't put it in it. It was not in a place.
You've killed it.
No, I haven't. It's not dead. It was just not left in a bright enough room.
Sad.
And then I picked it up to move it, and all the leaves just went poof, fell off, and there's two at the top. Yeah, so we sat in there. But I'm not sure. Are you any good with checking up or anything like that?
No, I'm surprised that mine is still kicking it.
Yeah, right.
I've relied.
I reckon some people just have like a green thumb, and they're just really good at doing it. Yeah. And they don't even know how.
I don't know if it's me or not yet. I've only had plants for a month or two. So check back in with me soon. If my place is barren, then I've lost them all.
Fuck. Do you have any like bad habits that you've had to kind of weed yourself out of to get yourself in a better shape or to better performance?
No, honestly, I've always treated myself after doing the hard work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've treated myself too much, let's say chocolate or sweets or ice cream and things like that. So it's never been just, I had a period where I did retire from Collingwood and I came back and I didn't gym for a very long time, and I drank a lot, and that's probably the most out of shape I've ever been. However, I was like a little bit skinny fat. I lost a lot of definition.
Yep. I
didn't have a beer belly, but it was certainly, that was going to pop up soon. And that's probably the only time in my life where I've actually not kept myself in good nick. My batteries were at an all-time low.
Yeah, okay.
And it was literally like I'd walk into the gym and I'd just look at a weight and I just couldn't do it. And I've had stages of my life throughout that, like that, where it's so hard to do. However, I'm very fortunate that I haven't had a bad habit. I don't smoke and I drink, but I don't take it too far, I don't think. So I haven't had something like that, and that's a really nice thing to not have to try and break a habit.
Yeah,
because I know how hard that is. Oh yeah, I know it's such a difficult thing to do, but I'm very fortunate I haven't done that.
You find it easy to kind of get into like a habit and a routine. That's a healthy habit.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's easier.
Yeah, and like I'm saying, there's definitely times where I've walked into the gym, I've done a couple of reps, and I've just walked out, and I've been mindful about pushing through a mental barrier, and a lot of people have that. Mine's always an emotional thing to it. If I'm not going well, then that might affect my weightlifting. But apart from that, I haven't had.
I think that's healthy. I think if you know and you understand, being in this going to make me feel worse, then it is
there's always a time to push, by all means. Yeah, I'm with you though, and I'm quite aware of that as well. I don't want to go to the gym and get a massive session out, but push myself backwards in other ways. I don't think that's healthy. So I'm once again quite mindful of that effect as well. So I will listen to my body and just respond off that.
And one of the last things before we finish it off, my Uncle Frank, we started the last episode, he gave me a whole bunch of questions to ask. He's a real fan of the podcast, my Uncle Frank. And he listened to all the podcasts over the Easter long weekend, and he gave me a whole bunch of questions to ask guests when they're on the podcast next.
100%.
Yeah, and I'll pick one for you. You ready?
Give me all.
Hopefully, Uncle Frank approves of this
Give
one.
me all of them.
I don't remember all of them, but I'll give you two. Okay. First one. What's the give me like an example of what fires you up, charges you up for a game?
Like what revs me up?
Yeah, what revs you up? What gets you going?
In a good or bad way?
Anyway. There's no clarity to that question. You just kind of said what charges you up, gets you fired up. Gets different.
If I know that someone on that other team has done something to my teammates, I love that.
Okay.
Like done a dog act, said something at some point, someone gives me a story. A lot of footballers talk. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff people know about other footy players.
Yeah, a bit of like word of mouth.
Rightly or wrongly, and I'm never going to throw it in their face. But yeah, I'll know that if I can get a good hit on them or something, it just makes me feel brilliant. And then my teammates, especially because this is Nick Heineman from St Kilda. Yeah, he would just he'd go, I don't like that bloke for X reason. I go, brilliant.
So that happened like 10 years ago.
I'll get him today, and then and we get him, and then after the game, it's just hilarious. So that's something. Apart from that, I don't really get. I look like I get revved up, but I don't actually.
Yeah, I think you don't want to go over the edge.
Yeah. So
then you lose.
I am actually quite level-headed when I go out there, and I might yell and scream and pump the blokes up, but internally I am not at that energy level by all means.
Awesome. Yeah. The second one, I think I already know the answer to this. I think we spoke about it. But if money wasn't an object and nothing was impossible, what would you do?
With my life?
Yeah.
I'd
with anything.
NBA player for sure.
NBA player?
I love basketball.
Yeah, right.
I nearly love, so bad to say, I think I actually love basketball more than I love football. And I can watch that all weekend. I could play it all weekend. If I was better at basketball, I would have tried to pursue it more. Yeah. I absolutely adore it.
Can you dunk?
Yeah. I can dunk. Not anymore. I'm 25 going on 40. So I'm getting old. But
mate. People always say that. Why 25 is prime? Not even in prime yet, mate.
I don't feel prime. I feel so old. But yeah, that 100% I would be an NBA player and just loving it. I reckon that crazy. Lifestyle is nuts. And it'd be incredible to experience that.
That's on another level.
That is, yeah. So I've experienced, elite sporting in Australia.
Yeah.
That is something else. What they do over there, what they get paid, and also their schedule and also their gym. They're playing 83 games, and they're backing up. They're flying across the country. It's just, I think it's awesome.
I think we said it before. Like, there's the difference between like skill level and like athleticism between players on a list. NBA and NFL, those kind of that's, you take another level. That's also genetics. Like, you got to be genetically gifted to be able to cope with all of that and to be able to. They do some athletic things that's like you can't even explain.
And I think
none of it's trained. I don't think
the level of it as well is any of those players, like literally any of those players can come and play NBL and be probably one of the best shooters in the NBL. So let's just say a shooting player from the NBA, and they come to NBL or the Australian comp and they will be the best shooter. But over there, they're not.
Yeah.
And the best shooters are something else completely. And everyone's been taught that since they were young. And it's
shooting is shooting, right?
How can there be such a difference? It's just, our cap at Australia for skill is here, and so for basketball. Mm-hmm. And then theirs is just on another level.
It's crazy to think what it is. Like, what's the difference?
I don't know. And no one knows, because if you could find out and you could bottle it, you could turn
all the people.
You'd have 6 more Steph Currys, but you don't. And that's why, or LeBrons, and that's why I love watching those players, because they're not going to be around for long. They're the greatest in their respective fields. And you may as well just watch the best while they're the best.
100%. Tiger Woods was like that too.
Exactly. He was an absolute freak, and understand the confliction of people supporting him, but also let's just talk about golf and how good he was.
Yeah.
You may as well watch him while he's around.
Yeah, well, even the same as well with I don't follow NFL much, but now his name's to my head.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, Brady.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like NFL, but I will watch Tom Brady because
he's a living legend.
He's literally the greatest of all time. So you may as well experience that.
Hell yeah.
And watch it, because I'm upset I never got to watch Michael Jordan. I actually I like LeBron more, probably because I grew up with him.
Yeah.
But I've never got the chance to watch Michael, live on TV, and that sucks. And would have loved to have done that.
Yeah. I was listening to a commentary the other day saying they're talking about the GOAT and all this sort of stuff. And talking about like being the GOAT, like everyone has different perspectives what the GOAT is because you have more of a emotional attachment to the people you've watched growing up. So like, you know, you always said obviously LeBron versus Jordan, never really got to watch Jordan, never lived through that era of the hype.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's what I would say LeBron is, and there's plenty of arguments for and against, and you can hear them all. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. I'm emotionally invested in him as an athlete and a player, and and a person. So therefore, that's where my vote goes. Whereas someone who grew up with Michael, I can see why, absolutely why you'd be choosing him. That's just.
You obviously watched the Netflix doco.
Yeah, fell in love with it.
Did you find that looking at that, you're like, wow, like you wouldn't even know half that stuff went on, or
nah, of course not.
It's crazy,
and there's so much more to it as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that docos like that is so good to get an insight into his mindset and you know I've got Kobe's book at home which I've devoured a couple of times because I was in love with Kobe and I still am. But especially just how he attacked basketball in life and things like that. I think it's just something else how they go about their stuff. I don't think the greatest, or maybe the greatest footballer of all time compared to, you know, the greatest basketball of all time. I'd love to
check it out.
Well, I'd love to see what their mindsets are like.
Yeah.
And like Kobe's mentality, I don't think would be able to suit AFL football.
This is very
the mum mentality and just getting it done and winning the game at all costs. I just don't think that could be utilised as well as it is in basketball as it is in football. So it's just.
Why do you think that is?
It's still a little bit of a selfishness to it, and you got to understand that an 18v18 game versus a 5v5 game, Kobe can take that shot because you can't have the greatest of all time running through everyone and kicking a goal. It's just you actually can't do it. You need to rely on someone else to help you win the game. Let's just say it was a game-winning goal or shot in basketball. You can impact a basketball court much easier than you can impact on a football field. It's things like that it'd be so good to compare mindsets of that.
Have you read 11 Rings by Phil Jackson?
No, I never have.
Have you heard of it?
I have. Yeah, I've never actually been a Phil Jackson.
Oh, really?
Fan, unfortunately.
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't really hop onto a coach bandwagon.
Yeah,
I understand. It's something that's never. I think if I was ever to get into coaching, that would be something that I would dive into and understand the philosophies and the mindsets of handling those personalities and things like that. But never had an inclination towards coaching, so it's just not something that intrigues me.
That's the most interesting thing I found in that book was how he was able to manage Kobe and Shaq in the same team. The same thing with Jordan. He kind of explained a little bit how the process he took and how he kind of manipulated them.
Yeah,
and like he kind of went to Jordan for like most things, but then he was able to when he took over the coaching role and was able to say to Jordan, like, you're going to have a bigger impact on the game of basketball itself by doing it this way. Like he brought in a whole new the triangle offense and sort of stuff.
Yeah,
you have a bigger impact this way. You win more championships this way because he knew Jordan wanted to win championships.
And in the NBA, in America, I think personalities are allowed to be more dominant as well.
That's a good point.
So, yeah, so that's why that coaching job would be so hard because they're allowed to dive into their egos much more than what people allow athletes to do in Australia.
Yeah. Do you feel like you get kind of pushed, not like you kind of get blunted a little bit, like the media wants you to be flat? No,
I think it's more, you do, but I think it's more your teammates. You can't, I couldn't play with someone who's posting the crap that some of those NBA players post on their socials. I wouldn't be able to play with someone like that because it's so arrogant and self-centered and you just, in Australia, it's just not normal at all. And I've seen that, Mason Cox came to Collingwood and had a little bit of that and still does. And that did rub some people up the wrong way when he got there before everyone realised that's just part of his personality. He's not there to piss anyone off. It's just how he's been brought up and it's just completely different in Australia. It's
crazy.
And that's the cultural differences.
And we love it. Like, if I watch, I like watching fighting and the guys who's like Conor McGregor like that, just goes his voice, like everyone loves it because the thing was before he has had a couple of bad run with losses and that sort of stuff. But when he was winning, like people like fucking, he's just
people that enjoy fighting love it, and people that don't enjoy fighting think he is a knob. And he looks like a dickhead because of that. Yeah. Whereas I love Conor McGregor as well. So you just look at it and go, well, that is just brilliance. And it's, that's part of him, and you just accept it and enjoy the whole package.
Yeah.
Whereas people might say, yeah, he's a great fighter, but I can't stand how he acts and things like that. But it's intertwined.
Yeah. All right. Jono,
Beautiful.
thank you for the time, brother. I appreciate it. Might do a part 2. I said everyone would do a part 2, but if anyone wants to come on board.
Absolutely.
We've done 10 episodes. I still can't believe we've done 10 episodes. Well, I've done 10 episodes, and my editor-in-chief sitting out there, she's helped a little bit on the way. So thank you to everyone who's been listening to the last 10 episodes. Appreciate your time, Jono.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, mate.